Sonic Adventure and Sonic Adventure 2 are two of the most popular games in the Sonic series. It's still being talked about, even to the point where some still hope for a Sonic Adventure 3. There are many reasons why people love these games: the gameplay, story, Chao Gardens, music, and the characters. The Sonic Adventure game saw the return of a few familiar characters and the introduction of new faces. But how do they stack up on the morality spectrum? Hey guys, I'm Brad with One Up Binge, and this is Sonic Adventure 1 and 2 characters, good to evil. First, some rules. We're only judging characters based on their portrayals and actions in the Sonic Adventure games. We also know that Sonic X did its own adaptation on the stories found in these games. We'll only reference these versions if it helps solidify a point being made and focus primarily on the versions from the games. With that said, let's get started. As usual, let's start with the most pure and noble character and work our way down to the most evil. These characters are the good. For our gold medal of good, we have Maria Robotnik. Maria might just be what you would call a purely innocent soul. Like anytime we see her in the games, she's trying to help someone else. You would think that with her fatal disease and being confined to a space station all of her life, she would start going mad. However, she only seems interested in carrying out her grandfather's original plan of helping out the humans. When Gerald asked her and Shadow to escape while they could, Maria still didn't want to leave the injured researchers behind. Even when she'd been fatally shot by a gun soldier, Maria showed no malice towards the humans and still wound up asking Shadow to protect the humans, giving them a chance to be happy. She never showed any hate towards anyone. She only ever wanted to help, even in the face of danger, and wished to keep the humans safe right up to her last breath. So yeah, she deserves a gold medal of good. Next is Big. Yes, that's both the description and his name. Big doesn't play the biggest role in either Sonic Adventure game, only ever interacting with other characters for moments at a time. While he mostly has a carefree attitude, he still cares about his friends, which is made evident by his constant pursuit of Froggy. Whether Froggy runs off on his own or gets abducted by someone else, Big will stop at nothing to get his friend back. Since he doesn't really do anything evil, Big gets placed near the top of the list. However, he doesn't get the gold medal due to his method of pursuing Froggy. He always rescues or catches Froggy by, fishing. Yep, Big's role in the game is centered almost entirely on fishing. For many, this is the part of the game that is mutually disliked. Even when he goes up against Chaos 6, Big wins, sometimes in literal seconds, just by fishing Froggy out of Chaos's body. While this keeps him out of the gold medal spot, we aren't going to put him any lower due to this being more on the game developers and not so much on Big himself. Regardless, we don't know that many people that legitimately enjoyed Big's fishing. Maybe the fishing is better in Sonic Frontiers. Big technically makes an appearance in Adventure 2, but that's more random cameos in the levels and cutscenes. The bronze medal of good goes to Tikal. Tikal is a lot like Maria in some respects, particularly when it comes to her selflessness and wanting to protect the innocent. While she can be considered a warrior and is capable of fighting, she's more of a pacifist and will only fight if absolutely necessary. Also like Maria, she doesn't seem to hold any malice towards anyone that hurt her. Her own tribe trampled her on their way to the Master Emerald despite her pleas not to, and Chaos wiped out her entire tribe. Despite this, she only wished for the well-being of all of them. Quite frankly, we could see why many people arguing that Tikal should also be given the gold medal of good, and we understand why. The only reason we're placing her here, just barely under Maria and Big, is due to some moments of oversight. She seems to want to achieve peace in the fastest way possible, which is understandable. However, as with many things in life, the quickest way isn't always the best way. Both times Chaos went on a rampage, likely ending countless lives, Tikal suggested sealing Chaos back in the Master Emerald. Before she attempts the second time at the end of Sonic Adventure, Sonic points out that this wouldn't solve the problem, as Chaos's anger wouldn't disappear, he would just be trapped. Also, we do want to point out the same moment in Sonic X where Sonic brings up a valid point and says, if we seal it in the Master Emerald, the same thing will only happen again. Even after seeing what Chaos did after being released from the Master Emerald the first time, Tikal wanted to seal Chaos back in, which would risk history repeating itself with more lives lost if Chaos ever got out again. While this doesn't necessarily make her more evil, as her heart was in the right place, constantly putting more lives at risk by trying the same thing more than once kept us from giving her a gold medal of good. Next is Sonic's closest friend, Tails. In terms of how he's in the adventure games, Tails is a great example of a character that improves over time. Ever since his debut, Tails has tried to stick close to Sonic's side whenever possible, offering his help when needed. By the end of the first Sonic adventure, and throughout the second, Tails becomes a lot less dependent on people like Sonic and believes in himself a lot more. I mean, his theme music is called Believe in Myself. The end of Tails' story arc in the first game has him coming to the conclusion that he can't depend on Sonic forever. He then proceeds to face off against Eggman alone, reminding himself that he isn't scared anymore. In Adventure 2, when on the space colony Ark, Sonic is sent away and is seemingly blown up in the capsule. Believing Sonic is gone, Tails goes toe-to-toe with Eggman on his own again, refusing to give up, despite how he supposedly just lost his best friend. Tails does run from the law in the second game, breaks Sonic out of prison, and destroys government property, which loses him a few points, but he's redeemed by why he does it. He's trying to prove Sonic's innocence and will go to great lengths to do so. The most dangerous thing he really does is chase down the president while traveling at great speeds down the road, endangering other drivers as he zooms past them. Ultimately, it's his character development and how he strives to do whatever it takes to save others that gets him this high up on the list. Next is Sonic. Being the main protagonist of the series in general, it's no surprise that we see Sonic on the good list. In the adventure games, he's constantly ruining Eggman's plans, often saving or protecting others in the process. He has a good sense of freedom and justice, and will do what he can to keep the peace. That being said, Sonic can be a loose cannon, often having the mindset of run first and ask questions later, and doesn't always think of the risk first. One of the most notable is in Sonic Adventure 2. Eggman has a weapon pointed at Amy, which has also prevented Tails from doing anything to avoid Amy being hurt. Sonic walks in with the fake emerald they were using. You can tell by Sonic's face and what he says to Eggman as he walks towards him that Sonic is feeling cocky, since he has a plan that he thinks will kill two birds with one stone. Almost immediately after, Eggman traps Sonic in a capsule that is set to blow up after being launched. If Sonic didn't have the fake emerald with him and used Chaos Control, which he had never even tried before this point, that cockiness would have likely killed him and put many others at risk, since he wouldn't have been around to stop Eggman anymore. He also loses some points because he, and Tails for that matter, leaves Amy to fend for herself multiple times in Adventure 2. However, we can give points back because Amy's kind of annoying. I mean, come on, would you want to sit around and listen to Amy's constant whining? In the end, you can always count on Sonic to be there when evil comes around, no matter how dangerous. Next is Amy. Most of Amy's good elements can be seen in the first Sonic Adventure game. Upon meeting a lost bird, she immediately jumps into action with the intent of protecting said bird and reuniting it with their family. Throughout her story arc, she's being chased by a robot named Zero. Being captured at one point, Amy is imprisoned on Eggman's ship, where she ends up meeting E-102 Gamma. She and the bird befriend the robot, who then sets them free. Later, she's back on the ship with Sonic, Tails, Eggman, and Gamma. Sonic engages in a battle with Gamma, but before Sonic can finish him off, Amy stops the fight, convincing Sonic and Tails not to destroy Gamma. At some point, Amy succeeds in destroying Zero, reuniting the birds and giving Gamma the chance to do the right thing. Amy follows a path opposite of Tails, and she is arguably worse by the second game. She's much more of a whiner, often demanding people to wait for her or to not leave her behind. Even when she's setting Sonic free from his cell, she seems primarily focused on trying to convince him to marry her. She redeems herself a little bit in the final act. She openly tells herself that she needs to stop whining and goes on to successfully convince Shadow to help save the world. This moment keeps her from going any further down the list. Next is Knuckles the Echidna. For the most part, in both games, Knuckles wants nothing more than to restore the Master Emerald after it has been broken. That being said, he still comes by to help save the day in the process. After restoring the Master Emerald, Knuckles breaks it in Adventure 2, but he does this to keep it out of Eggman's grasp. He then immediately goes into another mission to put it back together again, joining the other heroes along the way. He runs into Rouge multiple times, who's trying to take the Master Emerald as well. Despite this, he saves her from falling to her death when they fight in space, even though she can fly. Let's finally acknowledge the elephant in the room. One of Knuckles' biggest faults is his gullibility. He's notorious for being tricked by Eggman in the first game, causing him to do things, fighting Sonic in this case, so that Eggman winds up with more emeralds to give to Chaos. We also think he loses some points for when the heroes were flying in the shuttle towards the Ark in Adventure 2. Upon realizing the Master Emerald pieces he already collected were flying out of the cargo and into space, Knuckles is demanding they turn back and retrieve them. This is fine, but he tries to take over the controls, causing the shuttle to spin out of control. We already saw them hit one asteroid right before this, so Knuckles pulling this stunt could have risked a fatal collision with another asteroid. We still think Knuckles is a hero, but he could be better if he thought more with his head and considered the risk of his actions. Next is Rouge the Bat. You would think Rouge might be on the evil list since she's part of the Dark Story team in Adventure 2, especially since she helps Eggman and Shadow collect emeralds for the Eclipse Cannon. On top of this, the first cutscene we ever see of Rouge shows her trying to take the Master Emerald from Knuckles. In terms of helping Eggman, it turns out she was doing this for two reasons. First, it turns out she's a government spy, and she has the mission of figuring out who or what the ultimate life form truly is. Second, she figured that by teaming up with Eggman, Rouge would have quicker access to gems such as the Master Emerald. So while she is doing good things for the most part, she's still a jewel thief and tried to swipe a sacred emerald from its pedestal. She also loses a few points due to the Prison Island incident. Granted, she may have been trying to keep from blowing her cover by taking the Chaos Emeralds from the security hall, and she wasn't able to escape without Shadow's help. However, she knew ahead of time that bombs were being placed around the island to detonate it. When the bombs exploded, the whole island and all the life that would have been on it that didn't escape was destroyed. Like we said, she may have needed to keep from blowing her cover, and the bombs were on a strict time limit, so we won't hold it against her too much. She gets points back from the final cutscene, where she admits to Knuckles that she is giving up collecting jewels, which would include stealing them, and how she's thinking of something more important at that moment. She was doing questionable and dangerous things, but overall, she still winds up on our list of good characters. Next is the ultimate life form, Shadow the Hedgehog. Appearing only in Adventure 2, Shadow seems like an evil guy most of the time. After all, he is helping Eggman, who happens to be a descendant of the one who created Shadow, gather the emeralds to power a cannon that could potentially destroy the entire planet. Shadow has his own motives though. Shadow had a friend named Maria that lived on the Ark with him. When she was still alive, Shadow believed it was her wish for him to take revenge on the humans, and went out to fulfill that supposed promise. However, in Shadow's defense, his memories had been altered by Gerald after Maria's tragic death. Once he got far enough in this mission, Shadow was able to remember what Maria truly wanted: to help the people of Earth, saving them and putting an end to the chaos. Once this happened, and after some persuasion from Amy that was mentioned earlier, Shadow helped save the world from destruction. His final act in the game is what ultimately shoots him out of the evil and even neutral list and straight into good. Sonic and Shadow are pushing back against the Ark to keep it from colliding with Earth. In a sacrificial move, Shadow and Sonic use Chaos Control to put the Ark back in place. Upon doing this, Shadow's energy is spent and he falls to Earth, telling Maria that he has fulfilled the promise he made to her. Considering this was originally intended to be Shadow's only appearance before his popularity brought him back, this meant that Shadow fully intended on making the ultimate sacrifice. Even he didn't know he would survive and be brought back later. This selfless move is the biggest reason why he can be classified as a good guy, especially in the context of the game. Our final good character is E-102 Gamma. Gamma started out like most of the other Eggman robots, by blindly following all of Eggman's orders. This started to change after Eggman sent Gamma and his robot brothers to find Froggy, who had swallowed a Chaos Emerald. Gamma was the one who succeeded, and he watched as the others were sent away to be remodeled. He eventually met and befriended Amy, after seeing how willing she was to protect the bird with her, despite not having any use for it. Gamma then set her and the bird free. Not long after, Eggman ordered Gamma to kill Sonic and Tails, which Gamma still obeyed. At first, Amy intervenes and they all step down. As the egg carrier falls and Gamma heads towards the Mystic Ruins, several images flash in Gamma's mind, resulting in him deciding that Eggman was the enemy and that he must go and free the animals trapped inside his robot brothers. He succeeds without much of a hitch until he confronts an upgraded version of Beta. Gamma still wins the battle, but at a cost. Beta uses his last bit of energy to hit Gamma point blank. Beta then explodes, releasing the animals inside. Moments after, Gamma realizes that he too has a bird inside his body. Gamma decides that it's more important to free the bird and let himself blow up instead of activating his auto repair system. So yeah, Gamma is an Eggman robot that just followed what Eggman said for a while. However, he redeemed himself by being friends with Amy and releasing all the birds trapped in him and his brothers, solidifying a spot on the list of good characters. Now we go to neutral territory. These characters fall in the gray area. The first character in this category is Chaos. After taking on the form of Chaos Zero that we all recognize, Chaos protected the shrine of the Master Emerald, the Chaos Emeralds, and the Chao who lived there. That alone would make him a hero. However, things start to change when the Knuckles clan attack the shrine. Witnessing the events happening at this point, Chaos is consumed by anger and proceeds to wipe out the Knuckles clan, aside from Tikal, who steals both of them away inside the Master Emerald. Even though what Chaos did might make sense in a strange way, what really keeps Chaos off the good list is his rampage after being released from the Master Emerald. After absorbing all the Chaos Emeralds and still being consumed by anger, Chaos destroys Station Square, likely including many people. This is more on the bad side because these people did nothing to Chaos, yet he still took his anger out on them. If he stopped after the Knuckles clan, we still would have considered putting Chaos at the bottom of the good list, but this attack lands him in the gray area. The final entry in the gray area goes to Professor Gerald Robotnik. We can only wish we could put Gerald on the list of good. After all, he originally dedicated his life's work to finding ways to help mankind. He even agreed to help humans try and achieve a form of immortality. This is where things turn sour, especially after hearing of Gerald's contact with the Black Arms. The government decided Gerald's work was too dangerous. They then went to the Ark to take out anyone who was connected to the project. This included Gerald, Maria, and Shadow. Shadow escapes with Maria's help, but Maria doesn't make it. Upon discovering this, Gerald lost his mind, turning the entire Ark into a weapon that would destroy the entire world once the Chaos Emeralds were collected in the Eclipse Cannon. Granted, Gerald originally designed the Eclipse Cannon to take out the Black Comet when it was orbiting Earth, but his anger over what the government did caused him to turn the entire Ark on the humans. He started as a hero, preventing him from being able to be labeled as evil, but his actions after snapping, while having his reasons, keep him from being purely good either. At least the government eventually saw Gerald's original good intentions in future games, as the president declared that they should pay homage to Gerald, which the commander agreed to do. Now we enter the darker part of the list. These are the three characters we thought have little to no redeeming qualities. These are the evil. Starting off the category is one of Eggman's robots, Zero. Zero is the prototype for Eggman's E-Series robots, which includes the likes of Gamma and Omega. Zero's main mission throughout the first Sonic adventure is to chase down the bird that had become friends with Amy Rose. This was due to how the bird was in possession of a Chaos Emerald. Zero mostly appears in Amy's story, trying to chase them down. Eventually, aboard the egg carrier, Zero confronts them again. Zero knocks out the bird, but Amy believes it's dead. As a result, Amy fights the robot herself, eventually destroying it. Zero is on the evil list because, unlike Gamma, Zero never redeemed itself. If it did, it might have at least ended up in the gray area. We talked about Pachacamac before, but now he gets his own entry as the Silver Medal of Evil. Grandma was the leader of the Knuckles clan before he took over. At that point, the clan was relatively peaceful. However, after Pachacamac took over, the clan became much more war-driven and selfish. It was ultimately his influence that would lead his clan to conquer other lands, killing along the way. It was also primarily his decision to raid the altar of the Master Emerald to obtain more power. Despite the pleas by Tikal, who warned him and the rest of the clan not to go through with these actions, Pachacamac ignored her and ordered the clan to charge the shrine. They trampled her and a few of the Chao on their way there, where they ran into Chaos. This is how Chaos became filled with anger, resulting in him wiping out the clan and eventually destroying Station Square. Pachacamac's selfish interest and quest for power lead to the deaths of many others, including his own people. If he took a page from his mother and kept the tribe as peaceful as it was before, he would have saved himself and many others a lot of trouble. The Gold Medal of Evil goes to, no surprise, Dr. Eggman. How could it not be? In both adventure games, Eggman tries to conquer the entire world using some form of incredible power. In the first one, he releases Chaos from the Master Emerald and constantly looks to make him stronger. This is done without really considering the risk involved. In Adventure 2, he came to make an announcement and used the Eclipse Cannon to threaten the entire planet to submit to his rule, blowing up a portion of the moon. In Adventure 1, he does try to reverse his actions. He tries to fight Chaos after he reached his perfect form, but that was short-lived. Then, in Adventure 2, he contributes a little bit towards stopping the Ark from crashing into Earth. However, like Pachacamac, he could have avoided all this if he simply did not start these issues to begin with. Also, let's be real, it's likely that Eggman would have only saved the world so that he could try to conquer it again. As further evidence, we look at Sonic X one more time. After Sonic and Shadow put the Ark back in place, he does ask why Gerald would try to destroy the world like he did in the game. However, in the show's version, Eggman follows this up by saying, "I'm so happy the planet was saved. Now I can conquer it and establish my empire." Many people in Station Square and possibly its surrounding areas likely perished from the Chaos attacks after Eggman released him. Then, he threatened to destroy more than just the moon, which would lead to many more deaths if that all worked accordingly. He used other characters and the work created by his grandfather as nothing but a means to an end. He did this so he can rule, endangering the entire planet multiple times. Pachacamac at least seemed to care about the well-being of his tribe, albeit with not so great intentions, but Eggman only cared about himself. This easily gives Eggman the title of Most Evil in the Adventure series. Alright guys, that's it. Let us know if you agree with our ranking. And if you need a one-up, make sure to hit that notification bell and binge our Good to Evil playlist, where we break down the morality of the characters in your favorite games. Thanks for watching.